Brazy?
Yeah.
Looks like they back for a 5th season, man.
Who that?
Sports Roundtable.
Who?
SRT
Yeah.
Crew.
Whoa.
SRT, they got that realness flowing in they DNA. Damn you lame if you ain't tuned to SRT today. HO got that payload when he say so, what you betting on? Don't get mad at me on fantasy, break up Kyrie LeBron. I be smooth as sports superhero, Hancock in the mix. Deal will roll tide forever, real talk, you know who he gon' pick. See where I be with SRT, behind the glass, that G-Money. They with a strong, I never lose, 6-man elite, that's J Smooth.
All you other sports radio shows is fake news. Believe it. Turn up your radios, cause it's time for SRT Radio. Yeah.
What up, what up, what up? It's Sports Roundtable, and we're live from our virtual studios overlooking the great state of Georgia, baby. Yes, sir. I am your humble host, H.O. from Bankhead, and I got my esteemed co-host with me tonight, rocking and rolling, Mr. the sports superhero, Mr. Hancock. What's going on, bro? Ski.
Big homie, what's good, baby? What's happening with you?
All is well, man. We got a lot to talk about, got a lot to discuss, and it's NBA Finals time. It's time to jump into that as well.
Is the NBA Finals going on? I just thought it was all Caitlin Clark talk and WNBA fights and everybody grilling Stephen A. and
Yeah.
Kendrick Perkins backtracking.
Somebody finally stepping up and not scared of the corporation, I guess.
Boy,
yeah,
I'm telling you, man, this been real. It's been real.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know where this goes from here. I think it's a lot of drama, and I know we probably won't get into it, but I know we're in the first part of the show. We just doing the meet and greet. So I don't know, man. You think that's good for the game? Is controversy good, or at least it's being talked about? And the one question I do want to ask you, did you hear Monica McNutt tell him, Stephen A., you could have been doing this 3 years ago, on your platform? Did you think she was putting him on blast, or do you think that this could have been done a long time ago? Not just you, but the entire world, or the media. So how did you feel about that? Was he put on blast or what?
Well, I think, first of all, she stood up for what she felt and she said it. And I think she was in her right mind, right, to say whatever she felt, because I think a lot of times, women who come in on men's sports have to watch how they speak and talk.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to their sport, they feel like it's free game. I can say how I want to say it because it's my game. So, maybe she didn't think that they were getting enough coverage 3 years ago. And the only reason, now let's be real, the only reason, and let's go back. The only reason, Hancock, that Caitlin Clark started to get a whole lot of pub was because Angel Reese did it back to her in her face and pointed at the ring and pointed at the finger. That's the only way it got started. Right. That's when the train started with the Caitlin Clark and things of that nature. So, I mean.
Well, then that proves the point that controversy is a key factor. I think race had a lot to do with it too. I think that helps because I think that's what really perpetuated the Bird and Magic thing. I don't know if they keep trying to relate this to that. I don't know if you could ever do it because I don't think Angel Reese is the basketball talent that it will require for them to be rivals on the court. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not that Angel's not a good basketball player, but when you look at the I guess the potential of what Caitlin Clark could be, she could be a star. I think Angel Reese could be a part for a championship team. She's not a Aja Wilson or anything like that. Her game is not refined enough. So that's what I think on that. But I think race has a lot to do with this. And I think controversy sells. And hey, I think they ought to play it for what it's worth, man, because you got people at least interested in talking, and hopefully, some other substance can come of it. I put it like that. But yeah, at least it's interested right now.
I tell you this: if the first item on my hot news is the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, then it has gathered some attention. Because,
hey man,
I mean, and I'm not trying to talk about it to join forces or to do the pile on. It's just that I think it must be talked about because, for one hand, the media put her up, propped her up, and moved the narrative to what they wanted her to be.
Right
now, there are some. I mean, we saw it with LeVar Ball and his talking. You saw the first game his Lonzo Ball played, right?
Right. Exactly.
So I mean, when you start to put people one person above the game itself, then you of course you're going to get people to be offended, and of course you're going to get folks to come at you and to go at you. So I mean, I'm not surprised or shocked. I'm like, well, the media opened this can of worms up, and now they got to deal with the consequences that comes with it. And maybe they're trying to, this is their way of marketing and things of that nature. So my question is, how much is actually marketing instead of real?
Yeah. And I think it's a lot to do with marketing, but I do think it's some quality basketball players in the league. And I think that's one of the things that the established stars are like, well, wait a minute. We've been trying to get charter planes. We've been trying to get exposure. We've been trying to get people to come to the games and be a real sport. But it takes a college, athlete or for lack of a better term, a white girl that comes in who has talent, but not on the level as a lot of these established stars in the W. And if it wasn't for her, they wouldn't be, reaping these benefits. But you look at somebody like A'ja Wilson, man, and you look at Stewie, and you look at Ionescu, and I'm wondering why and how she didn't get more acclaim. I guess it was because it wasn't enough controversy. But Sabrina Ionescu was balling at Oregon, and she had the ties to Kobe, and he had kind of taken her under his wing. And so there was an evolution there, or something that could have been a stepping stone into making this thing more viable. But it took the controversy. Like you said, Caitlin Clark had been balling, but the controversy between her and Angel is what ignited everything. So I think, like you said, the controversy sells. It was just like, we talked about Bird and Magic. You had the inner city kid smiling, just talented or whatever against the hardworking white guy, blue collar, and they played that angle up, and it worked. It worked.
I'm gonna bring Bob in here to catch his opinion. What's going on, Bob?
What's going on, gents? How you doing today?
What's happening, Bob?
I saw you out there hanging. I said, well, I don't want to be rude. Let me see if Bob want to join in on the fun here. We talking about the WNBA.
Who would be thinking we'd be talking WNBA to start off a 2-hour radio show, huh?
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bro, this is crazy.
My thing on it is, if you want to keep it as a rival between Caitlin and Angel Reese, that's one. I mean, sorry, spacing already. But if you want to keep the rivalry between them, that's one thing. Kennedy Carter kind of needs to stay out of this, considering she's been ran out of 2 franchises now for her attitude. So she should be pretty lucky that she's even on a WNBA team making money as it is right now. I just don't understand why they aren't excited that they're reaping the benefits that they're getting right now. I mean, you've never seen the attendance like this. Attendance means more money in your pocket in the long run. So they should all be really, really happy that this is going on. Now, on the flip side of that, what makes the NBA so good? Rivalries. So if you create a WNBA rivalry, that's just going to put more attention each and every time those two play together and, or play against each other. And, that's what the WNBA has sorely lacked for a long time. Hancock mentioned, all the greats, Stewie, all them, but, Asia, but they never had a star rivalry, so they were just the best, it can make someone to make the game better. You got to have storylines. That's in any league, any professional league, got to have a good storyline to be able to make it work.
Yeah, but they did try a storyline when they first began, Bob. You remember it was New York versus LA when you had the two stars. You had Rebecca Lobo, I believe, that was in New York, and I think Lisa Leslie or somebody was in LA. And they billed that as the two dominant teams and tried to make this thing go like that, but there wasn't the interest. There was no prior, like we said, the igniting of a rivalry, even between two players, what you had with LSU and Angel and Caitlin in Iowa playing in the national championship game, and then all the stuff that went on between them. I think that's the igniter. And I think they tried to force this on with those two teams, but they had the fly in the ointment was Houston was just so much better, and they beat the hell out of them for the longest. Houston became the dominant basketball team. So the rivalry between LA and New York never materialized. So I think they tried to have rivalries, but this one this is a perfect storm. It is. It's just
back then, there wasn't, the college game wasn't as open, too. You had your three dominating college teams, and so, this year having, where there was so many good college women's team, made for such good storylines and allowed a rivalry like that to happen. I mean, Iowa, they were never in the discussion back in those days. It was Connecticut, Tennessee, and every once in a while someone else came through. But I mean, mainly the main stars came from those two. And so, unless you could try to create a Tennessee-UConn rivalry up in the WNBA, I mean, now you've got a chance to really broaden the game, market the game. I mean, this will probably be as good of a class that we'll see in a while as far as, being able to make a rivalry like that. But I'm just excited to see the interest in the product. I mean, as someone who's covered both the Seattle Storm and Atlanta, it was sad to see just the interest not there. It was, if your team was winning, the interest was there. But, if you weren't one of the top tier teams, I mean, I went from, when I came here and started working on the Dream, it was, they were such good. They had drafted really, really well, but then it just all went downhill. They just couldn't win anything. And you were lucky if you saw maybe 1,000 people in there. And, when you're able to talk to your buddy and everybody in the arena can hear your conversation, that, so, it's just really, really big for that for the game and for the exposure of the WNBA. And I think, it'll allow for more franchises to come in, Toronto coming in now. So it allows for expansion and the growth of the game.
Right.
Okay.
Like I said, the interest is peaking, man. And there are definitely crowds going and a lot of controversy with men not knowing what to say, and when they're saying stuff is being, taken, I guess, out of context in some ways, and then taken, I guess, offensively, basically in other ways. So, I guess, everybody's learning what and how they should be speaking on it, and I think it's a lot to do with people trying to protect the game. When you hear what Monica McNutt and Chiney Ogwumike and all they speak, they're basically trying to defend and say, look, you're trying to say everything is race related, or they're just all taking shots at Caitlyn just because of this. But I think in every sport, and you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I think not so much Kennedy Carter or whatever. You know, she has had some brushes in the past or whatever. But I mean, when you look at how people go at Steph or have gone at Steph. Look at Patrick Beverly, how he goes at everyone. So I think it's kind of blown. I don't really want to, point the finger so much at Kennedy Carter for what she did. And when you go back and you run the tape, they had a little dust up prior to that. It's not like she just came in and said, boom, I'm just going right after it. So, I mean, in the heat of the moment, I want a player with everything is so heightened and so seen, and everything is so media driven that this was just blown up big. Like you can't hit the golden goose, or you shouldn't be jealous of her. Well, you still got to compete against her. So it's a fine line to say jealousy versus I'm out here to compete and win. So I don't know. I want people with edge. I want people to go at. I don't want her to get hurt. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you should take cheap shots. Yeah, that was a cheap shot. It should have been a flagrant foul, and we should have moved on from it. But I think that it was kind of overblown, I thought, a little bit. And I think Kennedy now with her past is being vilified for it, really.
But after further review, Kennedy was reacting to the elbow that was thrown to her that wasn't necessarily talked about.
That's my point. I mean, we're seeing the aftermath, and we just see her calling her out of her name and running over and hip checking her. But in the heat of basketball, there's always been. Think about Jokic this year. You remember when Jokic got hit and then he ran across half court, and was it last year or this year when he hit Twin? So I mean, it happens. Things like that happen, but it's blown out of proportion. We don't look at Jokic and say he's a dirty player. You know what I mean? Right. So it was in the heat of the moment. I mean, things happen, but this has been like front and center, just blown out. And I don't think it's, like I said, it's controversy. It sells. It moves the needle. It's just like my Cowboys. People go talk about it, and it's a double-edged sword. You take it. You take the good with the bad. It is what it is. But at least they're being talked about.
More than anything, and I think this is, like you call it, a perfect storm. I think this is just adds to the ability for the WNBA to sell their product and to be recognized and to get more eyes on the product itself. So they'll take every advantage of doing this, because without the NBA, would the WNBA be able to survive on their own?
Up until this year, I don't think so. I think they're starting to get some money in the coffers now. Yeah, but without the NBA support, they definitely wouldn't be around. But
that's why I'm more surprised that the refs are even allowing the golden ticket to be touched in a WNBA game. Essentially right now she is. I mean, I would say she's the LeBron when it comes to famous of the WNBA right now. They wouldn't allow someone to be putting hands on LeBron like that back in his prime. I mean, so I was more surprised they're allowing that. I figured when I saw the play, I was like, oh, she's ejected. You don't touch the golden ticket like that. But they let it play out. And, like you said, she got the flagrant later on down the line as she should have. But I mean, now it's done and over. But man, now you can't wait for the next time those two go at it again, because there's a storyline there now that's going to sell them remaining tickets, if there are any, or the price of the second market tickets of that game is going to be huge.
True. Definitely true.
All right, fellas, let's go ahead and jump into our next item up the bid, and it's going to be Mr. Justin Jefferson signs an NFL record for wide receiver, 4-year, $140 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings. He was holding out, and people was wondering what's going on. So when I first saw this, I was thinking to myself, he signed a big deal. He's $35 million average per year. But will he have the same numbers without having a Kirk Cousins or a viable or an established quarterback at the helm? With Sam Darnold, I guess he'll get the start, but then you got J.J. McCarthy backing him up. Did they make a mistake in signing this kid to this big of a deal, not knowing if he will be able to put up the same or to maintain the type of numbers that he's been putting up over the first couple of years the last couple of years of his playing football?
Bob, you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't afford not to. I mean, you told your fan base that Kirk Cousins wasn't worth that kind of money. And if you'd have told your fan base that Justin Jefferson wasn't worth that kind of money while another team gave it to him, you lose that fan base. I thought it had to be done, and it was well-deserved. I mean, he is in the elite of wide receivers in the NFL.
Right.
You know, he gets that contract wherever he goes. I mean, he's just that top-level guy. I was more surprised that he took the deal. Like you said, with no Kirk Cousins there anymore, you're relying on a proven backup and an unproven rookie, you know? So, you know, if neither of those guys develop, you know, there's a chance that, you know, the deep pass ball isn't there. But one thing about JJ is he has a really, really good rapport with his wide receivers. He always has, you know, throughout his time at Michigan. You know, his wide receivers have always done well. And so I think that, you know, they want to – I see JJ, if he's not starting by week 5, I would be shocked. So, you know, give him the weapons to work with. You know, to ensure that, you know, the future of the franchise is good and the future of his success is good, and put, you know, generational talent. I put him as that. He's a, you know, generational talent wide receiver. I mean, like I said, one of, if not the best wide receiver in the league. So I just felt like it was a deal that had to be done by Minnesota to keep fan interest after they got rid of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, my take on it, I understand the apprehension of what might be, but you got to go when the iron is hot. When I look at what Justin Jefferson had to do, because like you're saying, he's coming into an unknown situation of quarterbacking. So he has to use what he has now to garner that big contract. The thing about it now is we've seen wide receivers be moved. Well, look at Devontae Adams. He found a way to get out of there, you know, and got a big deal. So there are franchises out there that may be a wide receiver away. We saw Stephon Diggs move and go get paid. So I think he's so at the top of his position that he could force his way out if things don't work in the next year. You know, if this isn't the right situation. If he makes enough noise and they could say, okay, yeah, we still got a lot of young receivers. They got the kid out of USC, and he on the squad from last year.
Yeah,
can't think of his name, but anyway,
he transferred from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so he's there. So they have at least somebody to go to, and they can move Jefferson to strengthen the team. So he's going to be in demand. So I think it was the right move for him. I think he had to go while the iron is hot. He's now the highest paid non-position quarterback in the league, which, you know, we saw that with Tyreek Hill, and now he's looking to redo his deal. So money changes, and in a heartbeat, this deal could be, you know, he could go from like being highest paid to like number 3 in the next week or so. So that's just that's the nature of the game. But I think he had to go. I just don't think that you could turn it down because if he doesn't have a good year next year, it could work against him. That's just the nature of the game. You know, they structure these deals to say, well, what you didn't do. They don't care if you had that Hancock throwing to you last year, you know, coming off a cousin. Hey, man, well, look, I had Hancock coming there. He got one leg. He can't throw for 40 yards. They don't care. They said, well, your numbers didn't match up. So I think he's coming off of an injury. He came back last year, which I didn't think he should have. Now, Bob, you want to talk about what he shouldn't have done? I don't think he should have came back off the injury last year. I thought he took a risk there, but it worked out for him. He got paid. He's still good. So in that respect, I just think he had to go get it. I don't think he had a choice. You had to go get the money. It was out there. It wasn't like they were undercutting him. If it would have been low ball, I think I would have backed off.
The other thing too is now you've got to, look at the Vikings wide receiver crew as, I mean, at the top of the league, I would think, between Justin Jefferson, and then, and what he will do for Jordan Addison,
Yes.
and everything like that, they're just, it felt like the Vikings had to make a move just to keep the continuity of the franchise going. Build on what they are doing. Last year derailed by injury. So, and really just crushed what I thought was a really, really good team. It's important for them to make these kind of moves. And like I said, it's one thing to feel like you overpaid, but I just don't feel like they overpaid this time. I feel like he got what's worth. But like you said, if he wants to force his way out, I think he can, because I think like I said, people would have paid that money for him anyways. So, another team would make a move for him and take on that contract, being that's what a lot of teams felt he was worth.
Right.
Yeah, I had a breakdown of the contract right here, and it reads that he's going to get a $37 million signing bonus. And it shows that the first year is going to be $38 million, second year $31.9 million, third year $25 million. So after that third year, they only really owe him $7 million. And they also got a bump if they do a fifth year, it can make the contract all the way up to like 159.
I think I was more surprised by the guaranteed money. I mean, 110 of the 140 mil, guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah, that's big for the NFL in general, where the skill players, non-quarterback skill players, wide receiver, running backs, haven't been getting those guarantees. So, it gives hope for that for the future of the position, that it may, those guaranteed contracts might be there. And maybe he's paved the way for that. Because we all know the running back position, how it's just been next man in. And just kind of seen that a little bit with the wide receiver position as well. So, yeah, that's what I think I was more shocked on the guaranteed, I think, at 110.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that to talk about the disparity, I think with him being the top, non-quarterback plays, I think he's like, when you look at their salary versus basketball and all the basketball guarantee, I think he's like 40 something or 42. He would be like 42 in the NBA. That's amazing as to how good he is and how at the top of his game he is. And he's not even, in the top 20 of a salary of an NBA player. That's crazy.
I was trying to look and see who the second wide receiver is now.
I think it's Tyreek. Isn't it
AJ Brown? AJ Brown.
Is AJ? AJ beat Tyreek?
I knew he got G'd up pretty good last year. So,
okay.
I wasn't sure if he was in the top yearly or. Yeah, AJ would be second at 84, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown at 77. So, yeah, I mean, look how far above he is the next guy, so that, and, so like I said, he got more guaranteed than any other wide receiver's current contract.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I would put AJ Brown at his level. I mean, I would. If I'm AJ Brown right now, I'm kind of wishing that I had waited just a little bit longer.
So my question is now, does the pain of the wide receiver, I was gonna ask that, but now that CMC done got an extension that's kind of going to the wayside, does this kind of continue to devalue the running back position?
Yeah, I don't think the running back position is coming back. It's going to be hard to come back because I think that you can find, like we've talked about it before. I think you can find college running backs that'll come in and be able to produce at those positions. You could, and the lifespan just isn't as long. They're getting hit on most every play, either whether it's in the blocking game or play action or running the football. One way or another, they most of the time get contact. And I just think that you're able to use that position. You can get 2 or 3 for the price of a stud running back. So
Right.
I think it can be more of a committee, and you can use that money and keep your running back numbers around that 10, 11, $12 million range, rather than pay a running back in that $20 million, $30 million range. That Zeke deal, I think, really was probably the last one that the NFL is going to see, and I think Dallas suffered from it. And I think a lot of the franchises looked at that and said, we're not going to take that. I think we can get a running back and move, and be competitive with a good free agent running back, somebody off another squad, or I can get like I said, I can groom a rookie. I just don't think that that's going to happen for the running back position anymore.
Christian McCaffrey is the exception to the rule. That's why he got paid. Not only does he serve as a running back, but he serves as a slot receiver and a tight end. I mean, so right. It's hard to judge, and pay a guy like him that fills 3 positions. I think the next person that'll be paid like that down the line is going to be Bijan, because Bijan's that type of player as well, can factor into, all 3 of those spots. So that's why I think McCaffrey got the money that he got, because he fills more than just the running back role. And, I read last year, I don't remember the number, but the snaps, the snaps that he's involved in the San Francisco offense is it was 60-65% of all the offensive plays run through him, so, and I think Debo was, next, I think it was at 20% or something like that. So, the offense runs directly through McCaffrey. And so, it only made sense for San Francisco to pay him, for the 3 positions he does play for that team. So, I mean, he makes them such a better team, and he would make any team that he went to. And I think he's shown that too, that he's kind of gotten over the little injury, bug claim that he had against him for a little while with concussions and stuff like that. He's kind of got, proven that he could stay healthy a little bit. And, so that's why I think that he got the money he did. But I just don't see, like you said, you're not going to invest a lot of money into the running back position anymore when, you can split that position up between 2 fresh legs, 2 sets of fresh legs, and then, and then put your money towards a quarterback, or, protect him on the line, those type of things, your more skilled positions. And I think the last 4 years we've seen just the downtrend in just even single running backs. I mean, now it's just a committee.
Right.
All right, Han, what do you think about CMC contract? Does this say that Ayuk is out of there? And report saying today that Purdy and Pearsall are looking pretty good, connecting pretty well out there.
Yeah, another story came out that they were trying to move Debo. Did you hear about that?
No,
I heard that on the way in.
Either.
Yeah, it came out on him, and he's I don't think that sat real well with him. But so I think they were talking about moving him. So I think Ayuk was the guy they were gonna, hitch the wagon to. But like I said, the thing with using CMC, and like you say, he's so multifaceted that I think that was one reason they shopped Debo. They were able to say, okay, well, if I'm doing that, I can use CMC in so many different ways. He and Debo kind of do some of the similar things. He doesn't do everything Debo does, don't get me wrong, but you can get away with him lining up at different places. He's that effective. And I don't know how this is going to sit in the locker room now with Debo Samuels, because I think that they were trying to clear up space and find a way to sign Ayuk. I don't think they want to move Ayuk. I think they know that he's a quality pass. He's actually the better route runner when you look at them as wide receivers. He's probably the best wide receiver they have on the team. So Debo may have been the most flamboyant, the more talked about, the more of a playmaker. But when you talk about efficient pass running or pass route running, it's Ayuk. So I think they really want to keep him. I don't think they want to get rid of him, because the thing we talk about, I talked about Purdy, and I say this, and I stand by this. Purdy is not a guy that is like a Mahomes who can elevate all the talent around him. He needs some talented pieces out there to make him effective. So subtracting an Ayuk would be a detriment to him. So I don't see Ayuk being let go. I think they'll find a way to sign him.
If they move him this year, they save $22 million on the cap too. So that's another thing to keep in mind with trading Debo. And I think, I can believe that they did try to trade him, last year as well, because he is such a big cap hit for them. And it is, kind of, from the last extension that they gave him. So it is a kind of a detriment to being able to keep some of your other core players with, that's a lot of money going against the cap.
Right.
But yeah, because I imagine now that, because I think they can release him at 2024. I don't see that happening by any means, but but then he becomes a free agent, and you look at Justin Jefferson, what's Debo going to be worth 2 years down the line?
Right.
So depending on the thing is, you very rarely see teams that are that good. I mean, I would say San Fran is going to be close to, if not back in the picture for a Super Bowl run. So you don't see teams like that tend to move guys like Debo, but I don't know. It depends how, if it becomes a distraction with the contract and him wanting more money, I don't think San Fran's willing to put up with that too long, knowing that they can save that kind of money if they do trade him. I could see him legit going to the Cowboys. If anybody was to grab him, I do think it would be Dallas. So that's perfect fit for them.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
Speaking of Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, is he the next? Is he up next for receivers to get paid?
I think you have to pay CD with the year he had, but when you do that, I mean, are you going to pay him on offense top, 3 money, and then turn around and have to pay Parsons the same way? Or do you try to pay them both now because you can kind of spread the money out, and the cap is going to expand in the next year or two, and try to save some money by signing a Parsons now also? So those are things they got to look at. And I think you have to go ahead and sign CeeDee Lamb. He showed that he is. I think there were some questions about really was he a number one. I think he answered all of those. And if you're not going to sign Dak back, which I've been telling you for the longest, I don't think they're going to sign Dak. I think they're gonna ride Dak out. He's gonna be a lame duck quarterback this year. He's gonna play out this last year. And I don't think they're going to sign him back for $50 million. I think they did that, and it didn't pan out. So I don't think they're going to do that again. So I think you signed CD. I think you find a way to try to sign players around your offense that when you do go to a quarterback, let's say you go and you draft, or maybe Trey Lance is showing them something in practice. He was a high draft pick. Maybe they're looking at that and saying, well, he's going to be the guy of the future. I don't like him. I see you shake your head, Bob. I'm with you. But paying Dak ain't it. So if it just ain't it. And you did something, you spent some draft capital or whatever you did to get Lance in there. I don't know. You did it for a reason. I don't know why, but maybe they're even looking at maybe trying to maybe tank a little bit this year and go up and get a Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. Who knows? Plenty of things have happened, but I don't think that Dak is signing back. And maybe it's more of a hope. Maybe I'm 60-40 hope and 40% thinking they won't.
The next quarterback in Dallas is going to have the last name of Sanders on the back of his jersey. I'm telling you right now. It's just I've said it from day one. That's where he's going. They will trade up for him. They will do whatever they've got to do. But the next quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys is going to be Shedeur Sanders. And I've thought that from day one. So,
all right.
That's because that's a place too that Dion will direct him to. It's meant to be. That's what I've always said. He's, as soon as he started coming around as a quarterback that was going to be a first round talent, and he proven that. Yeah, I've told my wife so many times, like, he's going to Dallas. I'm sticking with that, and I just think that Jerry Jones loves that it's Dion's kid too. So, but yeah, that Trey Lance ain't it. Trey Lance has never been it. Trey Lance was overdrafted when he was drafted, based off of a good 3-month stretch that he had at the end of his college career. But yeah, Trey Lance ain't it. There's a reason that San Fran moved on.
Yeah, I'm right with you, Bob. I never thought he was either, but I'm willing to take a chance on him if it means not signing Dak. I'm with it. Let's do whatever we got to do. I don't want to spend that.
Dak is not the answer for y'all. So no, he's just not. He just makes too many mistakes. And too many mistakes. They should have at least gone to, the conference championships at least 2 out of the last 4 years. I mean, with the teams that they've had, and it's Dak holding them back from being that. And, it's unfortunate, but there's no way they sign him again. So whoever it is, they've obviously got somebody in mind, because like I agree with you, he's just not going to get the money he thinks that he's worth. And, it's not going to come from Jerry Jones this time.
Well, here it is, your Dallas Cowboy report. All right, fellas. I was gonna talk about Shalimar Sanders, but I think I'm gonna skip that because I think we've talked enough girls basketball for tonight. But what I will want to talk about is the increasing rumor that the NBA is about to sign an 11-year deal upwards to $76 billion with NBC, ESPN, and Amazon Prime.
Wow.
So Hancock, me and you was on the show last night, talked about talking some little hoops and whatever the case may be. And one of the guys mentioned that they about to sign a lucrative deal, and you was talking about how Boston would eclipse over $600 million with 2 players. With this deal, if this deal is true, what is it that your thoughts on the salary cap and all that at that point?
It's going to expand. It's definitely going to expand. And I was going to send you an article where I was that I sent to myself, and I'll have to send it to you at a later date. But it talked about work in the NBA and how the luxury tax. You have 2 different. You have a luxury tax, and then you have a second apron-like tax that goes into effect, and they represent where you'll have to. There's so many stipulations that go into it where you're limited on draft pick, you're limited on signing the player exemption rule and all that kind of. There's so many things that go into play, and I wish I had been more well versed in it before we talked about it. But I didn't know you were going to go here. But to piggyback on what we were talking about last night, with that expansion of money, that's going to help teams like Boston sign and have $200-300 million players. But it still remains because they just signed this collective bargaining agreement. So I don't know. I don't think they can tear that one up and then, go in. I think that this has to run its course. So even with Boston, with this money coming in, that same pay structure is still going to be in place. So I don't know if it's going to help Boston in this event anyway. They're still going to have two players that are going to make in excess of $600 million. And then you have I think the salary cap is like 176 million per year. Then you go into the luxury tax, the first one, up to like 189 or something like that. And then after that, then you get into your penalization stuff. So I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if this is going to help them as much as it seems it might. We'll see. I'm gonna pull this up while Bob talks on it, and maybe I can be more, because I know going into this year right now, I think Boston is $5 million over the cap this year. So, and it's gonna escalate next year. So go ahead, Bob. You can go talk now. I'll look this up. And
I was just gonna say, there's only four contracts that I care about with whatever deals they sign, and that's Charles Barkley, Kenny, Ernie Johnson, and Shaq. Yeah, they need to bring whatever major market, whatever big, if that's Amazon or whatever, needs to keep those four and have that be their lead-in show to whatever. I know that's taken over a lot of the talk about this whole thing, was that them not having the show anymore on TNT. I just never said, why wouldn't you move that crew over to whoever does get the deal? But I mean, it's good. It's good for the game. Good for they said the salary cap will go up, but like Hancock said, you're locked into the salary cap as it is now because of the collective bargaining agreement. But I don't know how long this CBA goes through for the NBA, but you can guarantee the next one, is going to see a healthy chunk of change, based off of that agreement. But it allows, I think one other thing that's going to allow for is, I think this will now allow for 2 expansion teams. I think the Seattle's going to get their team back, so I can see that happening. And then, maybe, a Nashville, I
think it's got to be in Las Vegas. I think
Vegas is a prime location for that. I know that, through talks of friends that are involved on the Seattle side of the NBA, that one of the main things was that they really didn't want 2 expansion teams to be close to each other. As far as on the same coast, they really wanted to give an East Coast side one and a West Coast side one. But from what I've heard, that once this deal is signed, expansion's fully on the table, and that, Seattle has pretty much been promised one of those slots, and then but the next slot is up for discussion, whether that's an East Coast side. I can't see them not giving it to Vegas, just because there's so much money to be made down there, with a franchise, so many things that you can do within that hockey arena, make it a hockey basketball arena. It's perfect for that, and the location as well. So but yeah, that's the main thing I think we're going to see out of it is salary cap increase and 2 expansion teams.
All right, real quick, let me break down from the reports the amount of money that NBA that the NBA would garner. ESPN paying $2.6 billion a year, NBC $2.5 billion a year, Amazon Prime $1.8 billion a year. Now I understand why Jeff Bezos never went under any kind of scrutiny about the movie playing on his platform, because they was in discussion with making sure Amazon Prime, making sure they was locking up that $1.8 billion. So there you go. 8 points. All that equals to is $76+ million for 11 years.
Well, I can
So,
tell you
man,
one thing: Amazon Prime's about to go up.
yeah, that deal, I'm sure. So yeah, go ahead and invest in that. But Han, your thoughts on that, and if any three of those networks, where do the TNT guys fit best?
Well, I think they need to be on something where it's a little more free flowing, and I think you and we talked, well, not think, but I know we talked about it last week, and probably during the week, maybe even on the show no, we didn't last night, but it was last week when I was saying I thought that NBC might be a little bit too buttoned up for the style of candor and kind of just off the cuff type of show that they had. I don't think it'll play well on NBC. So it probably needs to be at an Amazon or something like that, or something to that effect. I just think it needs to be on a show where they can kind of shoot from the hip. We see all the antics and everything. If you go back and just look at some of the stuff that they did on that show, which made it so entertaining, think about the couple of segments like when they had the Super Bowl club, where they wouldn't let Barkley in. He couldn't get past the rope because he didn't have a championship. Those type of things are so funny. And then the gone fishing, like they might start something and then it becomes its own entity, part of that show. I mean, who he played for, all the things that we, come to love on that show, I don't think play well on a stuffed shirt buttoned up type network. And I just think it needs to be somewhere where they can breathe and keep the same, fun-loving show that they had. I think that's what made them successful. So I don't think they'll be good under a serious format, because they don't. What Barkley will tell you all the time. He said, "Man, I didn't watch that game. I can just tell you what went on here, and he'll fly off the cuff. And I just don't think that's going to play on NBC like that. And I could be wrong. It may work. I just don't. I look at NBC network, CBS, ABC, but ABC got a little more fun because they're kind of affiliated with ESPN, so they kind of fly a little bit. When you see their show, they kind of get a little out of bounds a little bit too. But those other networks, I don't see it. I hope I'm wrong because I love the show, but I don't think it'll have the same juice.
All right, Bob, go ahead and jump in. Your thoughts on where you think they best fit.
See, I think the best fit for them would be Amazon, because they need, with them being the new kid on the block as far as offering basketball as a selection, they kind of can really garner more interest by having, inside the NBA there. I think it would benefit them the most. You've seen, a lot of those guys during March Madness on CBS, where it's a more handcuffed show of, inside the NBA. They're not, the crude humor isn't there as much as it is on TNT. I think Amazon on a subscription based type thing is where they would be more beneficial for. But it really depends on what, who's paying their contract. Is it the TNT paying the contract? Are they still under contract with TNT? The other thing that I was kind of thinking is, does TNT keep them if they are under contract, still have an Inside the NBA show, even though you don't have, NBA programming? There's times where, like Sunday Countdown when, ESPN didn't have football, but you still have the lead-in show and, to the Sunday football games, but you just flip over to the network that has it after you're done. So, it seems to me with everything that's been said that, their contracts do end with the NBA leaving. All of them kind of saying, hey, this next year will be our last year here, of the show. I just can't imagine them one of those networks not finding a way to keep all those guys together. It's entertaining. It's a great show. It does generate interest in that night's basketball games. But yeah, I just think it'd be more beneficial for Amazon, to get the buzz for them taking on the NBA, and be really good for them. And again, those guys and that show alone could get more subscribers for the Amazon Prime, as people follow that show over, even if you don't have an interest in that night's game or whatever is going on over there.
So does that mean TNT is out? Is what we're saying?
Yeah, TNT's done. I mean, you could smell that and see the writing on the wall probably about a couple months ago that was just not going to work out anymore. TNT's really, really cutting back on their sports background. I mean, I know that they're in their two biggest draws are NBA basketball and AEW wrestling. And AEW wrestling is having the same contract problems right now with TNT, of them wanting to get away from that type of content on their channels, which just shocks me. But I mean, that's a lot of money to commit to one thing. The NBA is a lot of money to keep them broadcasting rights. So, they may not feel that it's worth it anymore.
Yeah.
TNT had a good run since 1989 to now.
It's going to be weird not seeing it for sure on TNT, but I felt the same way when the Braves left TBS. It was just like, what, where else could they go? Where else could they succeed? So, but yeah, it is going to be weird not seeing that on TNT.
Yeah. I think I brought this up last week, but TNT is entering into the college football realm as they have put their name in the hat to host or to broadcast a college football event this year. I think they started this year, so they're still trying to stay relevant and somehow.
Yeah, I mean, there's but the funny thing is college football licensing is getting up there for getting up there into the pro type levels. So yeah, something just happened along the way there with TNT and the NBA, because a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have never thought that this would even be up for discussion. I mean, this is TNT's game. TNT has had the NBA. I said, like you said, for all them years. So I heard other people were bidding. I think it don't matter. TNT will jump in there at the end. Something will happen. They've been a great partner for the NBA. I said, but it's just been that last couple months where all of a sudden I'm like, now TNT's just out. I mean, and you could just see that something happened with the relationship that somehow got fractured with the NBA, and now it's done.
Yeah.
And
I agree. It's so strange because it is one of the best vehicles that they have out there to promote their sport. Yeah. I mean, when you think NBA, you think Ernie and Chuck and Shaq, more so than you do the ESPN sports show, basketball show. I mean, you have the NBA Today Show or whatever they have on there, but on ESPN. But man, when you think of coverage of the NBA, man, you think of Ernie and Shaq and Kenny, man, and Charles. So I agree. It's the end of an era. I was with you, Bob. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought something would happen at the last minute, and they could pull a rabbit out of their hat. But I'm confused on what I kept hearing about Charles being the only one that's a free agent. And I hadn't heard anything else to that effect. I heard that, he's able to work for any network at any time if TNT doesn't do basketball anymore. But I don't know if that's the same thing for Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie. I don't know what was in their contract, but I know Charles had that in his to where he could go. So that's one sticking point that we need to find out about it, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be different. Definitely.
Ernie's been a TNT guy in that Time Warner for many, 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 many years. So yeah. If anybody was locked into a Turner, or that type of deal, I would think he would definitely be like an exclusive deal, for them. So that might be one hold. I mean, the main hold up. I don't think they would do it without him. So, but I guess we're going to see. I mean, like I said, it's surprising to us, but it's just as surprising to them. And when your 4 key guys that have been with you for years seem just as shocked as us 3 are that TNT aren't in the basketball game anymore, that leaves more questions to what really happened behind the scenes.
I agree. All right, fella, let's gonna go ahead and wrap that hot news up, and we're gonna get into some more news. And as I go ahead and switch my banner out, let's go ahead and give Bob a shout out for doing the Braves report. So, Bob, it's on you, but let's talk about these Atlanta Braves, and as they get shellacked today after a awesome pitching performance by Max Fried, 13 strikeouts against Boston, come back today and get 1 hit. And again, Spencer Shallon, blah, 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 is 0-2 now. I guess we're doing the Gwinnett shuffle for that 4th and 5th starter. But Bob, go ahead and let us know what's going on with the Braves and what we got to look forward to.
Well, it's three main talking points. I mean, injuries, number one. I mean, injuries are gutting us this year. I mean, it's just brutal, and then, here Sean Murphy gets plunked in the elbow and leaves a softball-sized welt on his elbow. Luckily, it sounds like everything's good with him, that he'll be back. He just had to take a couple of days off. But, injuries, hitting, dead ball. The Braves are getting hurt the worst by the dead ball season this year in baseball. I mean, you look at their speed off the bat, the launch angle, all the science of the game. The Braves are better than they were last year, and the ball's just not getting over the fence. And when you're a team that relies on the home run to get runs, it shows. I mean, this is where we're at. I mean, we're just nobody's hitting. I mean, it's just you have your one good game, and then it's followed by 2 games where nobody hits. Strikeouts are up. Like you just said, the pitching is starting pitching 4-5. Spencer Swellenbach was brought up for one reason only, and that's his ability to hit the strike zone. But the thing is that he doesn't have a refined strike zone. He just throws strikes. Well, on the big league level, you throw something in the zone like that, and they're going to homer off you. I mean, and he's finding that out. That having a command or being able to throw in the strike zone is one thing. Having command of the strike zone is something that he'll learn as he goes along in the game. You got to figure Spencer Swellenbach started this year with Rome in high A Rome, and then made it up to the Braves in 1 year. He pitched a few times in Double A, but then he came straight up. But everybody expected that Hurston Waldrop was going to be the guy that would get called up. I think he is going to be the guy that does eventually get that spot, but he just doesn't have the ability to throw in the strike zone. He was walking a lot of people at the beginning, but he did just get called up to AAA and has made a couple starts and has been pretty decent up in Gwinnett. So I think that he will be called up here really, really soon. But it's the main thing is just dead ball. I mean, the dead ball is affecting. This has been the worst year for hitting in MLB in a long, long time. So pitching numbers are way up. Hitting is way down. There's only one explanation for that. People just don't forget how to hit. And so what I think we're going to see is that AA is going to make the moves, but they're going to be for hitters. I bet one thing that I just wish that had we known what we know now about Braves hitting is I really think the AA would have loved to have Luis Arias come from the Marlins to the Braves and bat leadoff, but you don't think you're going to need a leadoff hitter because you have Acuna. But had Acuna gotten hurt, early on in the year, I think he would have made the move for Arias to be your leadoff guy, and Arias is tearing it up in San Diego. I mean, he's been a fantastic addition for them. But you're going to see guys like that being made. The moves that AA are going to make, contact hitters instead of power hitters, is what we really, really need right now. And so I think that your under the radar moves that are going to be made by AA soon are going to be that, not guys that may not move the needle for, names you've heard, but guys that are going to be able to make contact with the ball and hit. He just made one the other day that I heard a lot of people graphing about on Twitter, and that was, we picked up Brian Anderson off of waivers from Seattle. And, everybody's like, oh, Brian Anderson, oh, really? Is this it? And I'm like, you look at Brian Anderson's numbers, you go search him right now, you're going to be like, really? This is what we're getting? But a lot of people don't remember Brian Anderson came from the Marlins to the Mariners. And what did he do with the Marlins? Killed the Philadelphia Phillies. He hits well in that ballpark. So that's why he's a Brave, because he makes contact. He's a doubles machine. And so he makes a lot of contact, and his best hitting is against Philadelphia. So I think that's going to be an under the radar AA move. But I know you and I have talked about and thrown out some names. Obviously Brent Rooker is a guy that I still love. I loved him last year. I love him this year. My tweet the other day was, don't let him get on the plane back when Oakland was here. Because I really like to find a way to get him and Mason Miller, the pitcher, here in a thing. But the name that I'm hearing coming up this last week that I'm hearing more and more and more and more is Luis Robert of the White Sox. And the White Sox have made it well known that Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert are both available. That would be a heck of a trade for the Braves to pull off, but that would take a lot of prospects to happen. I mean, we're talking AJ, or Hurston, or a Schwellenbach, that type of thing, as well as a couple other guys throughout the minor leagues to be able to pull off. That's not hey, we can just throw something out. But another name that I've been hearing thrown around a lot in trades, it would be our MVP. I've heard that the Mariners are making a huge full court press on trying to trade for Marcell Ozuna. So, that's something to keep in mind as well, because they're leading their division, and they really, really need some power hitting, and are willing to take on the rest of that contract, which could open up a lot of possibilities for the Braves to take on some salary. But again, who would have thought now we'd be talking about, could we really afford to get rid of Marcell Ozuna? I mean, again, he's right now in the top, I would say easily in the top 5 discussion for MVP of the National League, not just, not just being the Braves MVP, but, like the MVP of the whole league. He's just been that important for the Braves so far this year.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree with that. So tell me, Bob, who's been most impressive as far as pitching? Lopez, Sale, or Fried?
Well, we know what Chris Sale brings to the table. If you would have told me that Rodrigo Lopez, who had to be stretched out into a starter, would bring what he's brought to the table so far, I would have laughed. I mean, talk about coming out of nowhere. He has been fantastic. I mean, he easily could have won Pitcher of the Month that Chris Sale won last month. I think combination of the both of them, has been the reason that we're still able to sit here and be talking about, a wild card spot, and not being completely ridden out of the division right now with the Phillies playing so well. Max is Max. He's solid when, it takes him a little bit to get going, but he's solid. He's on a contract year, so he's going to really try to step it up on a contract year. So I think, my expectations from him, aren't any more than what I thought at the beginning of the year. He's done exactly what I thought he'd be. But yeah, if you had told me Rodrigo Lopez would be a savior at number 3, especially with Strider going down, what he's done for us has been huge. But what you got to wonder about him is that the innings, because he, has been a reliever for the last few years, will that affect him, in the summer heat coming on, when he starts getting into that, 140 to 160 innings pitched mark, where we start to see his numbers, kind of suffer a little bit just because he hasn't been stretched out as a starter for that long.
As far as hitting, other than Marcell Ozuna, are we concerned about anybody else after losing Acuna for the year? Albers is starting to hit a little bit, and Austin Riley had the only hit today. Are you concerned about anybody else?
I'm
or
I'm more concerned about our defense. Boy, can you tell if there's anything that you could tell Ron Washington isn't with that team anymore is how poor our defense has been this year. Hitting Ozzie has, he hasn't been hitting that well. Matt Olson and Austin Riley, like I said, are unfortunately victims of dead ball. The bats, the speed's coming off their bats exactly like it was last year, but just not getting over the fence. The only thing that I would really change is I would put Michael Harris in the leadoff spot over Ozzie. I think Michael Harris fits that leadoff role more than Ozzie, and had Acuna not be so and have to be at the number, at the leadoff spot, I think Michael Harris would have always been in that role. But, kind of, when it comes to the leadoff hitting, it's got to go the hot hand. I mean, Jared Kelenic is another guy that could, with speed that could lead off and has become more of an all around hitter instead of just being strikeouts or home runs. But I think if you go to make a move for a Luis Robert, Luis Robert, would be able to slide, at that, I think in that leadoff spot and fill the void that, for Acuna being gone that year. That's why I think that, he would be a move that I think that the Braves would make, to solidify that the top of the order. But that's where, that's what it is. The top of the order is just not producing at all. I mean, so, when you get to Marcell Ozuna, it's just there's nothing there for him to drive in, so that's why, despite him doing good, once we give up 4 or 5 runs, that game's over with, as opposed to last year where we were down 4 or 5. I mean, you always had a chance in the 7th, 8th, and 9th with who we had, and that's how it should be with the lineup we have now. But like I said, there's balls that I'm sitting here watching the game and I'm like, oh, he crushed it, and it's to the warning track, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, well, maybe that'll improve once the weather gets a little bit warmer in Atlanta, like it usually does. But I mean, we've been getting a little bit warmer, and that ball's still not getting over the fence. So that just tells you dead ball. That's what MLB has chosen to go with this year. And so you got to adapt to that, because that's every team. I mean, every team is being affected by dead ball this year. It isn't just the Braves being picked on.
All right, shout out to Aisha. She said have a wonderful Wednesday with the crew.
So I got a question, Big Home, before you go on, because I wanted to touch on a little bit more about this dead ball, and I've heard you mention it a lot. What is the purpose of that? To hold down scoring, to make the games more competitive? Did the offense in baseball just become too much? I mean, and hamper, because scoring breeds interest to me, and not to be scoring would seem kind of counterproductive. So why would you do this?
To counter the rules that were brought in. I think it's to counter the rules that were brought into place last year, with the widening of the bases, the quickening of the game. Those were all based for offensive type things. And last year was one of the most highest scoring years in baseball. And so I think to balance it out, that they may be testing it just this year to see what it is. I don't think that they thought that the discrepancy was going to be as bad as it has been. But I mean, ERAs are way down this year as compared to last year. And then obviously hitting is down, I think almost 30 .30 for hitting this year. I think that's the last number that I read. So yeah, I think it's just to counterbalance the rules that were put into place last year, and to find another way to quicken the game. More offense means you're batting around more. That also puts more minutes into the game. So, and one of the things the commissioner has always been about is how can he simplify the game to get the game 3 hours or under, because he feels that if the game is under in 3 hours, you lose viewership, you lose, interest of the fan. And I'm not disagreeing with that either. I mean, I can remember as a kid watching every inning, and but as I got older and my attention span isn't as there as much. 3 hours is about the limit of what I really want to watch a game for. So I just think it was a rule, counterproduction for the rules. But I think after the All-Star break that we're going to see the numbers flip-flop a little bit, because the interest is more. He wants to keep offensive interest because that's what draws fans to the game. As much as some of us old school guys like the good old pitchers duel, fans don't like that. I mean, they want to see their guy crush the 3-run home run all day long. But it's telling that Marcell Ozuna, with the talent that we have, is the best hitter we have on the team. I mean, I love Marcell Ozuna. Without him, we wouldn't be where we are this year, but he should never be the Braves' best hitter. I mean, and again, if you just look at the game, you don't notice that. You think, Matt Olson's struggling or Austin Riley's struggling. But I said, if you get into the science of it and you start looking at exit velocity, all those things that, the new generation of computers and statistics and analytics has put out there, you'll see that those, especially I've seen it most with those two guys the most, but, they should be having 40 home run years, to both of them. And at this pace right now, they're going to be lucky to hit 25 apiece between them. And how much of their stuff has gone to the warning track and just died out. And if you watch a game, just look at that. Look at what it sounds like coming off the bat, and then look at where it ends up, and you can just tell. I mean, that's the biggest sign of dead ball, is that the sound coming off the bat doesn't equal to where the ball goes in the stadium. So, and that'll lose interest real quick. Like I said, I'm expecting the All-Star break. You're going to notice offensive numbers start to go way, way up, because despite them wanting disparity, you're not going, there's too much disparity right now. Pitchers are having career years, while batters are having the worst years, ever. There's only a few that are having, numbers, and those are more contact guys than power guys. The power guys are struggling real bad. Contact hitters are lighting up the league right now.
Well, Hancock, you just got education on dead ball.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad I was able to get back in. I don't know why my audio tripped out on me, but I got back in and got the explanation. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. So, Bob, I had a question over the weekend. Doc wanted to know, are the Braves suffering more because of the pitching or because of the two coaches that we lost? I know you pointed about Ron Washington, but let's talk about Eric Young and Ron Washington together. The suffering of both coaches, or the lack of pitching depth, or the lack of hitting, what is causing us to struggle right now?
Well, I mean, that was a huge loss for the Braves. I mean, Ron Washington essentially acted as a second manager,
Yes, and yes.
Yeah, I agree. You can't, when your own players have come out and stated the importance that those two gentlemen brought to the team, that says it all right there. I mean, that's why Ron Washington was able to get another head coaching job, because he was a player's coach. The thing I'm thinking, though, is that Ron Washington may be available again to come back to the Braves here in a year or so, because it ain't working out in California out there. I mean, that team is absolutely atrocious. So,
Wow.
but
Okay.
yeah, but I mean, you just see the little things. Like I said, you see it in the defense. This is the poorest Braves defense I've seen in a long time. I mean, plays that just they make all the time. I mean, they've got a lot of Gold Glove winners within that team, and you're not seeing it this year. I know that they rank middle of the pack when it comes to defenses. You're not the worst, but I mean, they were always at the top of that, when Ross was there handling the defensive side of things, especially infield defense. But the one thing I know you probably noticed, Ho, how many times we've been picked off at first base this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many times will we get picked off when Eric Young was over at first base? Not many, So, and that's the thing, is that when you bring in two new base coaches like that, they've got to learn, like, how far out, like, Ronald can go, and before he needs to get back. But you just notice the little things like that, and I think that they'll get better with those two, doing what as they get through the year and gain more experience on the base pass. Especially Matt Tuiasosopo at third base. He's a manager, and I think he's going to be the next manager of the Braves, down the line. So, you kind of want to see, him get a little bit better about getting guys in, and stuff like that. But you got to build a lot of trust when you're like that as a coach. But yeah, defensively, that's the answer. Pitching is I think we over expected what we really had with pitching. I mean, again, losing Spencer was huge. I mean, absolutely brutal. So, I mean, you've got a guy that was becoming the ace of your staff, and you're starting to see Charlie finally decline. I mean, Charlie is 40 years old, and that's the thing is, you're eventually his numbers were going to go down, and we aren't finding that guy to be able to fill that role. So we're trying to hunt to find that guy at that, someone to take over 4 and 5, to give us some kind of stability at the tail end. And just, we've kind of gone through the role, but we're going to trade for that. There's no doubt in my mind that someone that comes over here is going to be a starter.
Okay. That's all. I think that's all I got for the courses for the Braves. I think you've covered it all, my man. And I so appreciate it. And that's going to end our Braves report. So we got to go ahead and really quickly jump into some ballers, buses, and bus stop. Bob, you gonna hang in there with us, bro?
What was that?
I said you gonna hang in there with us with
I am. I've actually got to go.
Oh, okay.
I was good. I'm about 23 minutes over what I was allowed to be on today.
Okay, good deal. All right, man. We appreciate the Braves support, bro. We'll talk to you soon, Bob.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it. All right, bro.
Take it easy, Bob.
All right, hand. Ballers, buses, and bus stop. So yeah. So mine gonna be really, really quick. And this past weekend was my favorite person in the world's heavenly birthday, and we celebrated. We hung out with the family, and I want to give a shout out to the Smith family, Godmother's family, that continuously celebrate and make sure that the world understands how much she meant to the world and the impactfulness of this lady, and that being Miss Brenda Clay. So shout out to the family for the family get a Baller Award this week for continuing to celebrate this lady's impact on the world. So that's gonna be my baller for this week.
Okay.
What you got?
I ain't mad at that. I'm with that. That's a nice baller. I second that on that baller. I don't need to look no further than that. We work with that.
Okay, good deal. My buster for the week. Let's see here. It look like I'm kind of froze there a little bit. That what it looked like. Says the connection is unstable. Well, I don't know what to do about that, but my buster this week, hand, is gonna go out to no other than I'm gonna jump back on my bandwagon. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to my main man, SAS. For
Snitches Smith.
yeah, always trying to make an excuse for somebody who's calling him out. I mean, if that's what her opinion is, then why can't it be her opinion? And why can't that be what it is instead of, you know, he took it personal. He took it personal because everybody was riding with what she said and whatever the case may be. So it's no sense of trying to challenge no other sports shows of who covers it the most. That was her opinion and she said it. So that's just what it is. You know, all that trying to be right and all that trying to be this and that. I mean, come on, bro. It's just too much.
Yeah,
So
I didn't like the way he went about it either, especially when he kind of doubled down and then wanted to mention all these young ladies that he supposedly had a hand in them in their careers blossoming and taking off. So I was kind of glad Shanae kind of put him in his place and said the only person that made her were her parents. And he was trying, he made it seem like he was just the kingmaker. So yeah, I'm cool on your buster there. My buster also goes to Kendrick Perkins, and I know we kind of talked about he kind of backtracked with the Kyrie thing, but man, the internet is unkind. When you say stuff out there like that, it'll come back to bite you. Like stuff he said about if you put his brain in the bird's head, the bird will fly backwards and all that kind of stuff. So for him to come out now and be this pillar of the community and try to be on the right side of stuff, championing this and all this kind of stuff going at Stephen A kind of underhandedly and all that. He in the same boat to me, man. I Perkins to me is pretty much, a lot is given to him and he's made his way, and you can't be mad at a guy making his money and doing what he's doing. But I think a lot of his stuff that he gets away with is kind of overblown. So he gets my bust. Kendrick Perkins.
okay.
Big perk.
Yeah. I can agree with that. When he first came out with it, I'm like, yeah, okay. But you really went personal with Kyrie when it first came out. So yeah, it's no way that you can. I mean, some apologies, it's just not. You can't just come back from.
Yeah, that didn't hold any water with his apology to me. I thought it was trying to save face, and my point on it is if you got something to say, if you stuck with that's what you said about Kyrie, then stay with it. I haven't been the most loving or whatever. I think I'm not with everything Kyrie has done. But just because he's scoring and all that, I can't take back what I'd said in the past. I'm still gonna stay with what I said. But I just don't think that all these apologies and you trying to save face really do you that much justice. To me, they show that you really are not about. You're not really like that. You kind of like you kind of fair weather. You know how I call you the weatherman. So
Yeah, I
you
agree.
saw how the weather. You saw what the weather was, and then you want to go out in it.
Yeah,
I ain't feeling that at all. Stand by
I
what
agree.
you said.
I agree with Dez on this. He said Perk is uneducated about Kyrie. Kyrie and Jaylen Brown has been the highest IQ in the league. So yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah,
So Perk,
yeah,
man, sit down. I
yeah.
agree.
You ain't gonna stand on it. Sit down.
Definitely agree with that for sure. All right, my boy stop, hand. My boy stop. I'm saying this with tongue in cheek, but my boy stop goes out to Michael Finley for taking Luka's beer in the hallway in front of the locker room as Luka was trying to celebrate.
You there, big homie?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm here. Oh, okay. We can't hear. They can't hear us. Hold on. Can you hear me now? All right, I'm still here. Waiting on Hancock. Look like we're going through some technical difficulties. What about now, big homie?
I can't see you. I hear you, big homie. Can you? What about me? Can you see me?
I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't have you on the screen. I got your audio, but I don't see any video.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. We'll roll with it like that. But I was saying Michael Finley took Luca's beer after he was celebrating after the game in front of the locker room as he was trying to celebrate, and Michael Finley just took the man beer. I'm like, man, come on, let the man celebrate.
I know that's right.
Yeah. All right, do you have a boy stop?
My boy stop is the fans that are offended by Draymond talking about their team, the Minnesota Timberwolves fan base, because he was critical of Rudy Gobert and Cat during the playoffs. They thought it was a little excessive or whatever, but to me, it is what it is. So they get my boy stop.
Okay. Hey, let us know if y'all can hear us. Well, I know if you can hear me, they can hear me, so it's all good.
I hear you again. Yeah, I still, like I said, I don't have any video, but I do hear you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like your camera is off or something because your name is up, but I have no
Yeah,
visual view.
I can see both of that, but it's just a blank screen. I can see all of that, just a blank screen. But it's all good. Maybe they trying to tell me I don't need to be on camera today.
Is your camera off? Yeah, it's not off because
yeah, it's going. It's there. Down at the bottom, it got me froze, like something going on.
Gotcha.
I hate to reset it, refresh it, and I'm not sure what I'll lose, but we go roll with it. We go roll with it this way.
Okay. Let's do that.
All right, so that's gonna be our ballers, busters, and boy stop. All right, big hand. Let's go jump into our roundtable discussion. Go ahead and change the banner out real quickly here. There we go. Roundtable discussion. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this NBA game.
Yeah. Let's do that.
The duo. Well, I've said this time and time again that the NBA is trying to save their Christmas Day by having this matchup between the two best scoring duos in the NBA as we speak right now. So I think that this is what they wanted. This is how they designed it. And I think this will probably go 7 games, to be honest.
I can see that.
I think this will go 7 games, and I think this will be for entertainment purposes. It will be the eyes will be on the NBA this week and next week, or throughout this whole series. But I do want to ask you, who do you think that anybody have the advantage? Boston's been favored all year, and they're continuing to be favored in this series.
Yeah. Well, you know, we touched on a little bit last night on the show that we did with a friend of ours, Maurice, on his show. And the thing that I think I've settled on when we talked last night, and you know, first I spoke on whether Porzingis will be back. You know, what is his health status? But when I look at it, I think the two guys on each team cancel each other. Or maybe not cancel each other, but they balance the scales when you look at Luke and Kyrie versus Jalen and Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those two balance. But I think when I look at the third scoring aspect, I have to give that advantage to Boston, which allows that I think Boston's top 2 scorers can afford to have a subpar game and still that team still be able to win because they have more of a scoring punch when you look at, you know, the shooting that they have in Derek White, the scoring ability we've seen that Drew Holiday can score, Porzingis can score. They get a little bit off the bench with the little point guard. I can't think his name right now. He comes in and gives a little punch off the bench. So just the balance that they have with the scoring. And even though we don't look at Al Horford as a big time scorer, we've seen him carry that team with abundance of 3-pointers in the game, 7 or 9 or whatever. We've seen him do that, you know, and he's been on the big stage before. So those things I think kind of tilt the scales in the Celtics' favor. And I think, like I said, when I look at it, they can afford for their 2 to have an off game. I don't think Kyrie and Luka can afford to have an off game in any game in this series. If they do, I think their team can lose because I don't really take their third players. I don't hold them in the highest regard. PJ Washington has been solid, but he's had some struggles in the playoffs. But throughout the year, he became like their third guy. Tim Hardaway is a forgotten guy. We don't even think about him. When we look at Derrick Jones Jr., he's an athlete who has been making that short corner 3, but he's not a guy I want to rely on to be my third scorer. So that kind of is what I'm saying. It tilts the scale. I think Boston's defense, the aggressive nature that they're going to play with, they're going to be able to get up into them. And let's just say Kyrie and Luka do get 60 a night. Okay, well, we can balance that out with 60 that Boston 2 can get you. And then that third scoring punch that they have, I think that tilts the scales, man. So I'm leaning Boston. The more I look at it, I just think they have the more well-rounded, you know, team. They got more of a scoring punch when you come to after the top 2 scorers on each team.
Yeah, I was I picked Boston before the season started and said that this is the year that they would finally get it done. But now that Dallas in it, I picked the Celtics to win, but I would definitely would love to see Kyrie get another ring.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, they've already exceeded, well, not exceeded, but they got my expectations because I said they were my dark horse. So I'm happy about that aspect of it. They, you know, I did see that coming. So I can't sit here and say that I knew they were going to get to the NBA Finals, but I knew they would make a strong run. I'm glad to see you back, big home. But I knew they would make a strong run and be formidable in this playoff. So yeah, I can toot my own horn a little bit on that. But like I said, I take into your account. You think you're pulling for Dallas? Is that a Kyrie thing?
Well, I'm pulling for Kyrie, not necessarily Dallas. I'm pulling for
I got
Kyrie.
you. I
for-
got you. Can't be
yeah,
mad at that. That's your
yeah.
Duke guy.
Redemption tour. I mean, I've been following Kyrie since he was in the 10th grade, and we hadn't talked about what LeBron said today
Yeah.
about him being the most gifted player that he's seen that the NBA have seen. LeBron singing his praises and things of that nature. And when I first saw him in the 10th grade, I've been playing basketball and been watching basketball for a long time, and what he could do on that floor, I was just amazed and mesmerized by the skill level that he can put in on that floor. And I'm like, boy, if Duke don't get him, I don't know if I watch another Duke game.
I heard that. It's funny you say that, his favorite or one of his guys that, he always kind of idolized was Kobe. And Kobe is always looked at as one of the most skilled guys in the league. I think Maurice and I were talking and speaking on this, and I told Maurice, I said, if Kyrie was 6'5", 6'6", he would be probably considered in that top, barring all the off the court stuff that he had and all that stuff. But had he been the size of Kobe and Michael and guards of that height, I could very easily see him as being one of the all-time great two guards in the game, because I think he's a two guard trapped in a point guard's body. I think his scoring ability and how he can slash and he's so creative around the rim. If he was a legit two guard, he would be up there with mentioned in those guys' name and that esteem, I think.
That's a good point. Great point.
I honestly believe that.
Now I heard Chris Broussard today said he think LeBron misspoke.
In what way?
He said that gift is something that God give you. He said because so many players use the word skill, LeBron just went with the word gift, and he really meant skill player. But I mean,
I understand what Broussard is saying, but if you believe in a higher being, something, I think certain people are gifted with certain things. Just because he works on it doesn't mean he wasn't gifted with something that other players aren't.
I agree.
It's something to be able to have. He have a better depth perception. His feel for certain things is different from somebody else. Just because you can throw a ball doesn't mean you can throw a ball like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. You can work as hard as you want to. I bet Jalen Hurts can go out and throw 900 balls, in 4 hours each day. Just keep throwing and throwing. He'll never be the gifted passer that certain people that are just born with a knack for throwing the football are. It's a difference. When you see the ball come off certain people's arm, when you see Steph Curry shoot the ball, he worked at it, and there were hours that he did it, but it's something that's innate in his DNA that makes him be able to do the things that he can do. I just believe that. Other people just aren't blessed with all that. So, and boy, I know we needed to talk about this Gilbert Arenas, whether some people are generational or not. I know we'll touch on that if we don't even tonight, but man, come on. You can't tell me, how can Steph Curry not be generational? I just don't understand that, but that's just me. So, but I just think certain people are gifted. I think they're not given, but blessed with certain things or certain abilities that others just aren't, and I think they hone it. But I just think it's like that.
Yeah, the gift can be the gift, and it turns into a skill.
Right. So I think you can work on it, but I think that, like I said, I think certain people are touched different. They just are.
Yeah. How do you see this coaching matchup going in the finals as far as the two coaching facing off? Both coaches first time being in the finals.
Uh,
At least Jason Kidd went to the finals. Didn't he go to the finals with New Jersey 1 year against the Lakers?
went twice, back to
Went
back.
twice.
Remember?
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So at least as a player, he understand the significance of it.
Right.
But as a
Wasn't
coach,
wasn't the other coach? Wasn't he on the bench when they lost to Golden State? Wasn't he an assistant then? So he's been in the finals, hasn't he?
yeah,
I think he was assistant when they went to the finals against and lost to Golden State the last
yeah,
time they were there. I thought he was there. He had to be. So at least he has some semblance. He has a reference or something to go off of, being in that environment or knowing what to expect. So that's a good thing. But when you ask me who has the advantage, I really can't say. I mean, even though like we said, Jason Kidd has been there and he's been there in a different thing, but they both have experienced it, which is good. So I don't know. I think I've seen some growth, and growth comes with good players. You could probably be an average coach. If you got great players, it makes you into a better coach. So, I think the key is allowing your guys to play and feel comfortable and maybe make a few adjustments. I think it's a feeling out game, the first game anyway. So I can't say who will have the advantage until I see. Well, we can say after make the thing. That's kind of wrong of me to say because I'm really giving you the answer after I see it. But I can't really say. I guess I'll go with Kidd. I'm gonna go with Kidd, but slightly because I
yeah.
think they
Shout,
both.
shout out to Coach, man. Coach. Sometimes I get on this show on Saturday morning.
Uh,
The Rev and Red show on Saturday morning. Sometimes about Coach said Kidd has the coaching advantage.
okay.
Coach,
And
tell
like
us
I said,
why Kidd
I go
has the
with that.
coaching advantage. But
I go.
who's the better in-game adjuster out of the two, you think?
And that's the key. That's the thing I'm
That's
talking
the key.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
key. Who's going to make the in-game adjustment? Because something is going to go down as to okay, I gotta help this guy. We gotta double to get the ball out of his hand. Who's going to make those adjustments? I don't know. And I think Boston has the more pieces to make those adjustments. So we'll see. But I can't say who's the better tactician as far as a coach. I don't
I'm
know
not
that.
sure if you saw this, but on the internet, I found this audio of Jason Kidd telling Luka at the timeout when Luka hit the game-winning shot. He said, "If they switch, go for the win.
Mm,
If they don't switch, get to the basket."
get to the basket. Okay.
So, do you consider that a great coaching move, knowing that he's a point guard and knowing that if he had the switch, then Luka would have had the advantage.
And that's where I was gonna go. Would you say a point guard because he has a point guard mentality, being an NBA point guard. So that extension of having Luka and being able to say, I think you're gonna see this when you go out here. That may be the advantage we're talking about.
Yeah.
When we break it down like that,
But
because
Coach
it's not
said,
only
yeah,
I'm
go
a
ahead.
coach, I'm an ex NBA point guard.
Mm.
And so that does help. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's eligible. That's a good point.
Yeah, so Kidd said, Coach said Kidd has shown in these playoffs that he can make on the fly adjustments, in-game adjustments. And another point I think I pointed out last night, he ran at some point he stopped running any kind of pick and rolls from the side. Everything, all the pick and rolls started to be in the middle to stop the trapping of the pick and rolls and stopping the blitz.
Right.
So
Yeah.
once again, another adjustment by J Kidd.
Right. Hey, Those are big. And like we say, being a point guard and your best player is a point guard, or your best two players are point guards, really.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they dictate. They have so much usage in Dallas's offense that he's basically playing PlayStation because he's seeing the floor and he's seeing the game through their eyes and they're seeing it through his eyes. So I don't know. Maybe we are right saying that coaching it should be, shaded toward them because at the most important position on their team, their head coach has done it at that level.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm with that. I'm with that.
Which player has the most game by winning the championship?
I think it's Jason Tatum because he has been. I told you before, he got kind of passed up as the next guy. 2-3 years ago, before they lost to Golden State in the finals, he was starting to be looked at as could he be the face of the league? And I think that him losing and then having these bad ends in the last two games. I mean, he had like 100 turnovers in that playoff year before last. Or was it last year? In the Golden State's year that they lost to Golden State. In that playoff run, he had 100 turnovers. And he had horrible turnovers in that series that hurt them. And then, like I said, being passed up now, and is making an ascension. Luka is, up there. We know what Jokic is. Jokic is the guy right now. So looking at all this and going, and he has the most to gain. If he doesn't win it soon, he's going to start getting that moniker of a guy that can't do it. So I think he has the most to gain.
So I gotta ask you this, and this just devil's advocate. Why do we crown an individual or uncrown the individual in a team sport?
Nature of the beast, man.
Nature of the beast.
Nature of the beast. We have seen in this game, we've had superstars who have elevated their team and like I told you before, I don't know how sick Michael Jordan was in the flu game. I think it was kind of played up. So you know what I mean? I think he probably was sick, but I don't know if he was as sick as he was. But those are moments that you look at and they build toward the legacy. If you're the best player and you lead your team, you get the glory. And I think that even in team sports, you're gonna be the guy if you get your team or you hit a big shot or you're the guy or you're the man. Like Kobe didn't make the biggest shot in the game that they beat the Celtics. Ron Artest did. But Kobe was the MVP of that series because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be there. You know what I mean? He was the guy. You always want to be the lead. And you're gonna with that fame and fortune comes scrutiny. So if you can't live up to it, once you reach the pinnacle, big homie, all you can do is go down. You know what I mean? So they're gonna find detractors. That's why I always tell you when these guys have a chance to come out, you better go ahead and come out because now you're playing against yourself. You can have the same stats as you had on the year where you were viewed as the best player of all time. But if you don't do something more spectacular, they're gonna say you had about a down year. So you have to strike when the iron is hot. So like I said, I just think that with that scrutiny, the fame comes scrutiny, and that's why Jason Tatum is facing this. It's not like he's become a worse player or a bad player in any aspect. He's still getting his team to the finals. He's getting his team to the conference final. He's doing all this. But the negativity is coming because he hadn't won one.
Right. So I got you on that. That's a good explanation. But I do want to throw this out and ask you this question. I saw a debate online this past weekend, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So the debate was super teams. And the one guy said, well, you really can't call Jordan team a super team because Pippen developed under Jordan. So his point was a super team is a collective of superstars or stars that get together and go to one team, not a collective of players that develop and you develop into a star like San Antonio was. They were not, he said they were not considered a super team because they all developed that together. They didn't come from different, they didn't come together. They came together as one team and they developed together. And they probably all go to the Hall of Fame as individuals together. But he said, no, he said, so they were debating about that. I said, well, I'm gonna take this to the community, take it to the tenants, and see what my main man Hancock say. Your thoughts on super team, and can it be a super team if you are already on the team?
That's been my point the whole time, big homie. I don't think you can classify teams that grow and become dominant and call them a super team. You know, and
Exactly.
that was my whole point when I think Golden State and San Antonio are homegrown. Now, Golden State did add a piece that put them over the top when you look at Kevin Durant, but they won their first title with 4 drafted players. You know, they had Clay, they had Steph, they had Draymond, and they had your boy from Carolina, Barnes. And they won that title with all homegrown talent. Even the last title they won was basically homegrown. When you think about it, all those were draft picks except getting Wiggins in a trade, and nobody considers him a super piece. San Antonio for sure was all homegrown. So they aren't super teams. The super team thing to me started honestly with what Boston did by bringing in KG and Ray Allen, you know, into Paul Pierce and blending that. Miami took it a step further by bringing LeBron and Chris Bosh in. That. We've seen it try to happen at Oklahoma City when they tried to get Paul George to come in there with Russ, and you know, I think they had Melo was there for a year or whatever. You know, it just doesn't work. Even before that, think about what Houston Rockets did when they tried it, when they brought Barkley and Pippen in. You know,
Pippen along with to go along with Olajuwon,
exactly. So even though they were older, and then they tried to couch it by saying, well, they were past their prime, so no, you still did the same thing. You teamed up to try to build a super team. The Lakers did it when they did with Karl Malone, and they brought in Gary Payton, and they brought in Glenn Rice.
Glenn Rice,
you know, so it's been done over and over. Certain teams have done it, and more recently, look at what happened in Phoenix where they tried to do it, and it has totally backfired, you know, in that aspect. So I mean, it's not like it's a new concept. Certain people have done it better, but I don't think you can classify a team that's brought together draft-wise. They become dominant. You can't call them a super team. I never would look at that as a super team.
Chicago wasn't a super team.
I can't say they weren't a super team. Right. I mean, if you're gonna call them a super team, you gotta say the Lakers and the Celtics were super team. I don't think either of them, even though the Celtics made some moves that were underhanded, they drafted Bird as a junior, and did some things. So they got Robert Parrish in a trade. They drafted McHale, so those things, they built that team. The Lakers, whether they got Worthy in an underhanded way, they wanted to got him, you know what it is. It is what it is. The NBA did what they had to do to get Boston and LA relevant to grow the league. So I think those were, even though it may have been some shady things that went on to get those teams together, nobody was checking for certain players on that team. The average person didn't know anything about Kevin McHale. We knew about Worthy because he was on the team that Michael Jordan hit the belt, one of the biggest shots in college basketball history. And he came into that as the supposedly best player. Jordan eventually took that over, but it is what it is. But I just don't think super teams can be categorized as being a super team if you build your your team from the ground up.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. For sure. All right, who you got in? Who you got in? You say you already you picking the Celtics in this?
I have to. I got to go Celtics, even though my dark horse is in it. I got to lean Celtics, and it's for that same reason. I think that if the two players on each team cancel each other out, I think the bench and the supporting cast, or the others, as Shaq calls it, I think the others check goes to Boston.
Well, hold on. All right, so we got somebody else. We got Dez coming up, saying he understand the point, but I thought the super team was about the superstars building a super team and drafting a super team are two different things. Well,
Yeah, I think you kind of saying what I'm saying. When you draft your players and they become superstars. I just don't think they're super teams. I think they're just teams that become great basketball teams. I
right.
think that when you go in and you pluck certain players off a team and put them on one squad, I think, to me, that you kind of circumvent the system. And I can sit here and I can boast about the Lakers all I want, but as we've seen over the years, they go out and they've gotten stars to come in. They got Shaq, they got Wilt,
Yeah.
they got Jamal Wilkes back in the day and brought him in. So that's just been their MO, to not build through the draft. And even when they built through the draft with all these young players, then they traded them all away to go get LeBron James. So that's been the MO for my Laker team for the years, to go out and pluck stars and build these teams, So we kind of straddle that fence when we go versus super team there. But I just think, like I said, when you draft your teams and those teams become, big time stars or superstars, having a superstar on your team doesn't mean you're a super team or was built as a super
Right.
team. I think
Yeah,
that's what Dave was saying. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but if that's what he's saying, I agree with him on that.
Yeah. I say the star became a star because of the team. So when you do a super team, he's already a star. And then come to a team with another.
I think I lost you, but I don't know if you can hear me. I can't hear you. I'm gonna get out and come back in, big homie.
All right. Yeah, that super team thing is something to you can debate that all day, but it is a good point. But like I said, it's all right. What about now?
I'm back in there. I don't know
All
why
right.
it is. I lose audio every now and then. I don't know what's going on with that. We gotta get that checked out.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I was just saying that in order to be a super team, you can develop into a star within the team, but that doesn't make you already a team, so you're not a super team. And
Yeah.
I think what ends up happening is like Scottie Pippen developed into a star under the tutelage of Jordan.
Right.
Because so now people want to say, well, they had all these stars on the team. Yeah, the only star that they actually signed was Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, and then they signed Horace Grant also.
Yeah,
Remember?
but I think he was just a very impactful role player. I don't think he was a star.
Okay. I agree with you. I think at that time he was probably one of the most sought after free agents.
Yeah.
So at that time in that realm, we look back at him now kind of like that. But I think at that time he was looked at as like a star. I won't say a superstar, but a star.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I picked Boston before the season, and I just I'm just riding with my boy Kyrie on this one. I just
Okay.
hope this revenge tour, and what a way to win it in Boston, where he got vilified for and got criticized so much for that team, where I'm just like, well, hey.
And we haven't really talked about the storylines in this series, and that's one right there that you're kind of touching on, which kind of leads me back to the question that you asked: who has more to gain? Maybe it is Kyrie, because he is on a redemption. You're calling it revenge. I'll say redemption,
Okay.
because I think he's redeeming the luster and the acclaim that he kind of had, the good natured, everything from making the movie of Uncle Drew and everything was going well for him, to when all this other stuff went down and all the off court stuff kind of set him back a lot. So I think this maybe he does have more to gain than Jason Tatum in that respect. So that's a subplot. Another subplot is Porzingis, leaving Dallas, finding a home in Boston, and then there are reports that he and Doncic really didn't get along. It didn't work well. And I was one that I thought that was going to be a good, solid match. I thought that was going to be one for years to come that was going to really work, but it didn't.
Right.
So that's even one thing that we look at in this, a subplot. So there's more storylines to it and I think we're going to see more of those things come out when they start to interview these people, because they're going to touch on, well, how do you feel about this organization now? Kyrie going back, I'm sure it will not be a warm welcome when he gets in there tomorrow. And then I think, did he ever burn sage and whatever at their arena? Did he ever do it there?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure, and we know the history of. Yeah, we know the history of Boston. Boston is not the most urban loving city in America. Let's put it like that. So I'm sure it's going to be some words. Magic talked about when he was going back in that day and what the things that he was called, and I'm sure Kyrie's going to hear some things there. He's going to get booed, and the more they get juiced up and drunk, those upper level sections and whatever, you're going to hear some cascading down. So,
well, you don't want to piss them off now, so they better slow down.
Well, they gonna piss him off. They not gonna hold their tongue. They don't care. They don't care. They don't like. I think they're gonna have some Kanye West type people now. When he said about George Bush, they don't like good clear. Yeah, I'm trying to be tactful. Yeah. Some people in there, they gonna describe like Kanye did, that George Bush don't like black people. It's gonna be similar to that in Boston. Boston don't like Kanye people. It's gonna be that way. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to see him out there with the moccasins on. I want to see him ball. With the little shingles on his shoes and do his thing, Uncle Drew.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it, man.
So I'm gonna tell you how SAS gets on my nerve. He picked Dallas to sweep the Celtics, and he said that he's gonna. I'm telling you, he's talking about, I'm telling you now. I'm picking Dallas to sweep the Celtics, and then he said because of Kyrie and Luka, and then he went down the line and started talking about how much Kyrie is unstoppable. I'm like, boy, I say, when folks get the ass kissing, they don't stop.
Didn't he say Kyrie should quit? He said he should quit.
Retire. Yes.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Yeah.
So, that's what I mean. Retire. Quit. And he's singing all his praises, and I don't have a bad thing to say about Kyrie. I heard him say that.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, stand on it. Just stand on it. You was there, stand on it. That's all I say. I wish they would have to interview him. I wish Stephen A was on the set and Kyrie came up there and he had to interview him like the TNT people had to do. They had to face it. And that's man up. If you
I
said
agree.
it, be man enough to say, I said this about you, and you redeem yourself,
Mhm.
and I'm happy you had. Just say what you felt. That's what you felt. That's what you saw at that time, and just
Mhm.
stand on it. That's all.
Yeah, we're going over a little bit tonight because of the technical difficulties. We got too many people in the chat right now, so we got to keep it going. A lot
Okay.
of people in this business are apologetic now. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Coach. I agree.
Yeah. But say it
All
to
right.
him. Say it to him
Yeah.
because say it to him. I want you to say it to his face because you talked about him bad, flying backwards if you put his brain in the bird and all this kind of stuff. Man, come on, man.
Yeah, that was horrible. Very, very horrible. All right, Ham, my last thing before we at least get out of here. They had this same thing up on the weekend. Prior to injury, who do you think would have been the face? You got Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway, Derrick Rose, Brandon Roy, Tracy McGrady.
Honestly, it's a toss up between Grant Hill and
Who
Penny
has
to
the
me.
better who has the better career not for injury? Let me say it that way.
Again, I think it's between Grant Hill and Penny Hardaway.
There says Penny.
Yeah, the only reason I think Penny for sure because Penny had that national following with Lil Penny. That was one of the biggest marketing campaigns out there. Everybody knew Lil Penny. He had a classic shoe that people still love.
Coach going to
The
Grant Hill.
reason, the reason I say it's a toss up between him and Grant Hill is because Grant Hill did it in the college stage, and we've seen that catapult stars to the next level. Everybody knew Grant Hill. He was clean cut. His dad was an NFL former running back. Everybody knew Calvin Hill. He had one of the most iconic dunks in NCAA history, the alley-oop dunk to open that game.
Yeah.
Grant was right there, and he could play. He
Yeah.
was giving it to Mike and whomever. He was on the verge of people saying, "Hey, well, he is the next." So I just think to me it's a toss up. I can't really say which one because Penny had game. I hate that they both were injured because there may have been some different stories written in the league had they both stayed healthy.
No doubt about it. But now out of those 5, Derrick Rose the only one that had an MVP.
Yeah, but I mean, Derrick Rose was awesome. It's like Haley's coming. He was a flash. He was great, and he played at Memphis, so I'm a little partial to him and Penny. But I just don't know if it's something about having a way of popping and being able to have that Q rating, that rating where everybody he kind of he crosses that line. He's able to be accepted by the non-urban people. And I think the two guys we're talking about kind of fit that bill more than Derrick was. Derrick was more introverted. And
Yeah.
even Penny was introverted, but he had that great campaign of having Lil Penny. We didn't even know what his voice sounded like. We thought all we heard was Chris Rock, in that voice. But you know what I mean? So I think he was able to cross that line. I don't know if Derrick Rose was ever gonna cross over like that. I think those
Yeah.
two guys did and would have just
Yeah.
been, the sky would have been the limit.
All right, Dez making a good point for Penny in making his case.
That's it's a valid point. And like I
Now,
said, the marketing campaign don't hurt.
if Grant Hill and Penny is your top 2, who's third? Does Tracy McGrady, Derrick Rose come third, or do you give Brandon Roy some love?
I can't really give Brandon Roy that much love because Brandon Roy played in Portland and a lot of people didn't get to see his game enough. His games were so late. If you weren't a legit NBA fan, you didn't know the magnitude of his game. So I won't put him up there. The other guy, who else did you mention? Tracy McGrady?
Yeah. Tracy
T-Mac
McGrady
had a
for a
chance.
while.
But I think
he was arguably the best player in the league, other than Kobe.
And that's what I'm about to say right now. He was going to always be in Kobe's shadow if he couldn't win titles. And, Kobe just had so much of a head start on him. He was going to overshadow any two guard in that era. T-Mac was awesome. Don't get me wrong, but it was just the wrong time. You had Kobe and you had Vince. It just, he was always Vince's little cousin, even at Toronto. You know what I mean? So, barring injury, yeah, maybe he could have won a title and could have gotten to a certain level. I don't think that he would have reached Kobe. He even talked about how when they went to Japan, how he couldn't even move because of Kobe fan. Kobe's fandom was through the roof internationally. So I don't know. I don't think I won't. Maybe you want to put him third, I guess, but it would have been hard because of the shadow of Kobe.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have for you. All right, real quick before we get up out of here, I did promise the people that we will do that SRT fun bag. So y'all hold tight. Let's have a little fun, man. Let's have a little fun.
Let's have a little fun, big homie. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, real quick. All right, we still got a whole bunch of people in here, so let's go ahead and jump into some fun. All right, first question. Do you remember your very first paycheck and the amount that it was, and what did you buy?
Very first paycheck, I do remember, and I think it was enough for me to get a little equalizer for my 1982 Corolla.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it was over $100.
Yeah, about $150. So I bought a little EQ, and me and the dude spent about 6 hours in the garage trying to hook it up, trying to rewire and do everything. You know how you do back in the day.
Yeah.
So I go with that. I remember my first paycheck.
All right, so for me, I was a bus boy at the Magic Pan in Lennox Square a long time ago. Long time ago. Mom worked there. She got me a job, and bro, I bought me some Stan Smith Adidas. That whole weekend, I got like $45 tips one night and $45 tips the next night. So I had cash money, $90. Stan Smith won for $40. And I went and got me, dipped out again. He'll be back, y'all. He'll be back. Dad said he bought him a pull-out radio. That's what I'm talking about, Dad. Yes, sir. Coach, you say you bought you some clothes and some food, huh, Coach? That's what's up, Coach. All right, bringing the big homie back. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't know. I lost that audio again.
No,
but I heard you say about Smiths.
Yeah, Stan Smith all day long. All right. Real quick, and I was reading Coach said he bought some clothes and some food, and he had to pay them taxes.
I heard that.
Dan said he bought him a Pioneer pull-out radio.
There you go. Gotta have the ride right, baby.
Gotta have the ride right. I agree. All right, the next question is, I'm not sure if Miss Hancock around, but how many proms did you go to?
Just 2. 9th grade prom and 12th grade prom.
Just That's 2. It. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That's it.
I went to 4, hand.
Okay. Player.
No,
Come on now.
I went to 2 in my 11th grade year, 2 different schools. And my senior year, then I came back and took my high school sweetheart to her senior prom. So I went to 4.
Okay.
Dad say he only went to 1.
There you go, Dad. You did right.
There it is.
Yeah, I went to 2, big homie.
Well, Dad's married now. He probably sitting right there listening to the show with his wife. So Coach said he went to 1.
Yeah.
I think Coach married too, so he have to be careful with what he say.
I guess
right.
I guess you really just classify me as one if you don't want to count the ninth grade, but ninth grade was kind of fun. My ninth grade prom was pretty fun. So
That's more of a,
yeah, but
is that a prom or a dance? Because ninth
no,
grade.
it was definitely prom. I had the tux on and everything, man. But it was all
right,
good.
man. You go.
Yeah, it was definitely a prom.
Yeah, you couldn't go to our prom unless you was a junior or a senior. So the 9th and 10th graders couldn't go.
Yeah, well, now we like I said, and where I'm from, ninth grade was middle school. We went my middle school 7 through 9.
Oh well, if you count the 8th grade, I went to the 8th grade prom, but I said high school, so don't even worry about it. All right, the next question is this: growing up, what was your favorite pair of jeans to wear? Gloria Vanderbilt, Jordache, Guess, Levi's, or other?
Dude, I had some. I thought I was just flying to do to school. I had, most everything else was Levi's I had, but I had this one pair. Yeah, I had one pair of Jordache. That was the one. So yeah, I'm going Jordache.
Jordache. I'm going Guess and Levi's.
Okay.
Dez with the Guess, yes, sir. Going Guess and Levi's for sure. Somebody told me they had some Coca-Cola jeans. Coca-Cola had some jeans back then.
Yeah, somebody said Lee's one time. I think you asked this question. I was like, man, we never wear no Lee.
Yeah, some Lee's. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. I can't remember. Yeah, we ain't never wear Lee.
All right, next question. Which concert you going to? Both of these concerts are free. You got an old school and new school. Old school concert: Snoop Dogg, LL Cool J, Ice Cube, and the Brat.
Probably going to that one.
You don't even want to hear the new school, huh?
I mean, you can go. I go ahead and tell me who the new one is, because if it's anybody like Young Thug, I had to get somebody to interpret, because I don't know what the hell they saying. If it's them type people, they got to come with subtitles, because I don't know what they say. So,
all right, the Baby, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and Lotto.
I can understand J. Cole and Kendrick. Lil Baby lose me a little bit. So yeah, I'm going old school, man, because at least, and then I know if it's old school, they going home at a decent hour. They ain't gonna be out all night. So I'm going old school. And I probably won't get shot. So yeah, I probably won't get shot. I can make it home. I'm going old school.
Cole said he going Levi's. He worked at McCrae, so he had a discount on the jeans.
Oh, okay.
All right, Coach. I hear you, Levi. Coach, you had the 5.6s or the 5.40? What one you had? Dad say he going old school for sure.
Yeah, man.
He probably wanted to hear that Ice Cube and that Snoop, I'm sure.
Yeah, that one that you can't get up and get. You probably get high off secondhand smoke. That other one you might get smoke. So
boy, you out of chain. All right, next question. Growing up as a youngin', where did you go to eat after church?
We went home. We went but in them house. We had Sunday dinner in them houses every Sunday. We didn't go out after church. And big homie, if everybody know back from Memphis, you probably ate on some Sundays. You ate dinner at church because they had another service. So everybody brought food, and then we had to stay at church again and go back to church. So
we ate at church.
Yeah, we would eat at church in the basement, and then go back and get that other service. So
yes, sir.
It was there. We did that too.
Coach said some 504s. That's what I'm talking about.
504.
Dad said they go to Shoney's after church. Do you miss Shoney's?
I remember Shoney's.
Do you miss
Shoney's? Shoney's used to have a hell of a breakfast when I first got to Georgia.
Yeah, they did.
Man, that was the bomb. Hey, and you know what's funny, big homie? My ninth grade prom, that's where we went to eat. We ate at Shoney's. So did.
Hey, that Shawnee. God damn. All right, my next question is this. If you had your dream house, I need you to rank what's more important to what's least important. The lawn care, the cleaning service, or the chef.
Whew. I gotta rank them.
Yeah, we gotta rank them.
Okay, the chef, cleaning service, then the lawn care. Because the lawn care, I just want to make sure it's the grass is cut. I don't care nothing
Yeah.
about that. If I could concrete my whole yard, I would. I don't care about no grass, so it don't matter.
So what if I told you, if I added that you had an acre of land and you had the acre of land to cut?
Nah, like I said, I'd rather have concrete all the way around. I wouldn't care. I don't need no acre.
Dad said the same thing. Chef, cleaning, and lawn.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Everybody saying the same thing. Chef, cleaning, and lawn. Coach said the same thing. Well, hey, and I think I'm with you on that. Chef, cleaning, and lawn, because you cannot be a good chef. Can't be the good chef. I'll tell you that much. All right. Last question.
You there, big homie?
Yeah, I'm here.
Man.
No, I'm here. Oh, shit, he lost him again. All right, we're going to get Hancock back one more time. Yeah, we appreciate y'all tuning in. I don't know why these technical difficulties keep popping up, but we're gonna keep riding it out. Yes, we appreciate that. There go Hancock. He's back again. So let's see what we got going on. Yeah, there we go.
I don't know what it is, man. I keep losing audio. I got something that buzzed in on the phone, but it's throwing my audio out.
All right, no problem. All right, my last question of the night. Yes, sir. I think I got to go to the phone for this one. Well, I think I said it on the phone. Okay, here we go. Which is the hardest to what is the hardest transformation that you ever have to make? Going from out of shape to in shape, your mindset from negative to positive, or going from poor to rich?
From going from what? Poor to rich?
Yeah, poor to rich, negative to positive mindset, or your body being out of shape to getting fit?
I think poor to rich, because I think I could deal with the body thing. My mind, I think I'm strong enough mentally to change whatever I need to do. So to me, it has to be that money thing, big homie. It ain't working out. It's all this other stuff. This ain't really working out, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with.
Poor to rich. I'm going with mindset change. Because once your mind has changed to the positive, I think anything else can be accomplished. Coach say out of shape to in shape. He say he's getting old, so there it is. I said I was going to finish off on that one, but I got plenty more. All right, I got one more. Rank these as important, more important to least important. Money, power, fame.
For me, it had to be the money. Power, I can care less about fame. So it had to be.
So money, power, fame, just like I read it off.
Just like you read it. Yeah, give me the money.
Yeah, money, power,
power.
fame.
I'm good. Yeah.
Money, power,
I want both of those, and then I want to stay in the shadow. So you can keep the fame.
Yep, I can see everybody saying the same thing. Coach said money, power, fame. Absolutely. So money, power, fame for me as well. So yes, sir. All right, they got the music. Money,
There it
power.
is.
Yes, sir. All right, man. I want to give a shout out. First of all, let's apologize to the tenants for the technical difficulty we've had, but we appreciate you riding with us and sticking with us. Thanks for coming on and tuning in, man. We had a great show. Thanks to Bob for coming on, hanging out with us, and breaking down the Braves like no other. So we're going to continue to pray for the Braves and see what's going on with that situation and go from there. And we didn't get a chance to talk about what C.J. Stroud said about he'd rather have Eli Manning career over Aaron Rodgers. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that, hand, before we get up out of here.
Wow. Okay. I guess he's speaking in terms of getting the Super Bowl and actually getting them in New York, because you know, if you're gonna have a Super Bowl and be a Super Bowl champion, if you can win it in New York, that's a heck of a place to win it, because you don't have to pay for anything else the rest of your life in New York. You're a king. I'd rather have it rolled out for me in city than in Green Bay, Wisconsin, if you know what I mean. So yeah, in that respect, I understand it. People can forget about a lot of the yards and being a top quarterback. You were, MVP and all that, but Super Bowls, they mean something. And with Eli having 2, that goes a long way.
Yep. And make sure y'all go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. Make sure we get some subscriptions. Like the channel, subscribe to the page, man. We really appreciate it. Help us get our followers up and all that kind of stuff like that. So make sure you show us a little love, man. And that's all I got. Appreciate you too, big homie. So
yes, sir. As usual. Likewise, big homie. Again, I enjoy riding with you every Wednesday, man. You know what we do.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. Shout out to the tenants again, man. And we're gonna continue to ride this thing out, man. And boy, I tell you, for the last couple of nights about these manifesting dreams I'm having, hand. If I could get, you say you can't hear me? Oh, okay. Well, Han had to get up out of here because he couldn't hear me, but as always, man, we really appreciate that, man. And I even say it for Hancock. For your main man, H.O. from Bankhead, R.I.P. Moms, R.I.P. BC, R.I.P. Moms and Pops. And if you love the show, I appreciate it. And if you didn't, like our page anyway. And we're going to be out of here. Well, not yet. Hancock coming on back through. All right, Han. All right, let's roll up out of here, baby.
Yes, get up out of it. Boogie, I'm headed home, baby.
It's your main man, H.O. from Bankhead, R.I.P. Moms and Pop, R.I.P. BC. And if you love the show,
tell a friend.
And if you didn't,
shout out Miss Clay. Peace.
There it is. We out. Peace.